Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where it's about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of Wynonna Earp, a great series finale, a beautiful series finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. But first and foremost, I like that basically you have to get in that last case, because I was worried. I was like, oh, dude, what if this ends up being kind of a depressing ending? And it's not. It's actually a very happy and actually very hopeful ending, and I thought that was, yes, I'm glad, in a sense that, like, because at first you're like, oh, this is the way things get started about, like, that massacre that took place in the 60s at a lady's wedding. She killed everyone there and then herself, and obviously we find out, oh, Waverly has that dress now, so now you're kind of concerned, like, oh, history's going to repeat itself. But I love, like, you have Wynonna kind of getting very crazy about the details, because it's like, oh, they're having a wedding on the homestead. Like, I love, Nicole is like, come on, like, our relationship, things have never really been all perfect anyway, so things not being perfect is kind of perfect in its own right. It's perfectly imperfect type of thing. And I thought that was kind of a beautiful way to look at it. But Wynonna wants the best for her sister. It's like, oh, this is my baby sister getting married. Like, I want this to be everything. It's like, this is butterscotch. It's not vegan. I even love later on, like, she rats Nicole out by being like, Nicole, we're trying to feed you butterscotch cake or whatever. Also, it's like, yeah, we're having this in a homestead where her two dads died, and Nicole's like, well, say something for the toast. But I love that. And then she, like, gets seduced by the dress, she puts it on, and as she's walking by, everything related, like, kind of starts imploding and getting destroyed. And she makes her way over to Doc's place, and obviously they have their little back and forth, but he's trying to help her take off the dress. And then you have, like, that moment of Waverly coming over and being like, oh, I want you to actually, you're what makes you the best man I know is, yeah, you're kind of flawed, but you try every day to be a better man, and you become a better person, and you try every day, even though when you stumble, you still try, and that makes you the best man I know. So that's why I want you to be my best man. You're like, oh, it's like right there in the heart. She's like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. That's so amazing. I was like, that's so awesome. It's like, well, what about Wynonna? It's like, Wynonna and Nicole are kind of besties, so she's kind of there for Nicole. It's like, I love that, dude. It's so good. So I thought that was amazing. And obviously they try to find out. I love that Waverly got a dress from a place called Kersey's. I'm like, in the Ghost River Triangle in Purgatory, that is literally two on the damn nose. But it turns out that basically anyone that wears a wedding dress is going to, like, snap and kill all their guests and stuff like that. The only way to remove it is either kill the person that's wearing the dress or try to remove the dress with, like, silkworms, which you had the whole situation of Doc and Wynonna trying to find some, but then Wynonna finds out about Doc's letter because he was planning on leaving. And you're like, oh, because I was hoping it was going to be something beautiful he was writing and stuff like that. But instead it was like, oh, it's him trying to say goodbye. She's like, you're just going to leave a letter? And he tries to explain himself by being like, for him, it's like his past is so tied to the Ghost River Triangle, Purgatory. It's been his home for so damn long. All the time he spent in the well, like, this is all he's known. And for him, he's a new man now. And it's like he wants to live for the first time because he spent so long shackled to his past, holding on to it for dear life. So he wants to move forward. And he was even saying, like, basically kind of hinting he wants Wynonna with him too. It's like the fact is kind of just like yes, like he has family and people he cares about here, but he's also got to live his life for the first time in so long because the future is bright instead of looking at the dark past and holding on to it. Like, obviously that's why he always kept extending his life, because he was scared, just so busy holding on to the past. But now it's like your life is in front of you. You have this chance now. You've been kind of given another chance to make things right, to live your life, to no longer be tied to the past. And even saying, like, Wynonna, because she's calling him a coward, but he's like, you are, like, the finest hero I've ever fought alongside of, but when it comes to love, you are a coward, because it's like, it's obvious how I'm feeling, but you won't take that next step with me. Because, yeah, they've always had their fun, they've always been flirtatious, but that word has never come from Wynonna's mouth to him, so it's just like, what is this between us? I can't just spend my entire life. Yeah, what we have is fun, but I want more than it just to be fun. I want there to be more for us. And you can tell, honestly, Wynonna's scared even to the point, like, you know what, we don't have time for all this shit. I even love the whole thing. It's like, oh yeah, you bail on Wyatt, you bailed on Kate, you even got some of her shit still in your car. He's like, that's your shit. What are you talking about? But at the same time, you have Nicole and Waverly finding out about the dress, figuring it out. I love how immediately they jumped on it. Waverly's, oh my God, haunted dress. They figured it all out. Jeremy's berating Damien, which I love that later when we find out he's Bunny's nephew. I was like, oh, hence why he was like, oh yeah, like his tolerance for hate or whatever. It's like his muscles can like deal with like, he can deal with hate when it's like, right. That's probably that we know how very homophobic Bunny can be. So I'm sure that I thought that was kind of interesting. They just casually threw that in there of like, oh yeah, I'm Bunny's nephew. I was like, oh, interesting. Also, what about the whole Bunny and Nedley situation? It's still potentially a future for that, I guess. But I just thought that was interesting that they immediately figured that out. Also, speaking of Nedley, I love that whole cute thing of like him and Rachel going fishing. And he's like, yeah, the only thing Chrissy ever caught was mono. And it's like, oh, that's sad. That was actually really, really sweet. It's so sweet because he has like he's got so many kids under his belt. I love that. He's got Rachel kind of as like a kid, / daughter. Same thing for Nicole. Waverly and Wynonna in their own rights are kind of his kids as well. So it's sweet like how many kids he's kind of taken under his reins, I think that's awesome. But I love, like, obviously, Nicole, and like I said, they were figuring things out about the massacres. Obviously, this has happened since 1922, because the lady who sold the dress, she actually got stood up on her wedding. And so now she kind of passes the dress on to anyone that's gotten married in, which begs the question, like, I mean, it seems like it's happened periodically throughout history, but also, like, for Waverly, she's like, yeah, there's, like, this place has way above average murders, so, like, she doesn't necessarily correlate a lot of stuff, because she has, like, right, so much stuff gets swept under the rug because there's just so much damn murder that takes place in purgatory. It's like, yeah, that, honestly, I wonder which is. I'd assume Purgatory is worse than Riverdale in the sense of like just how being the murder capital. Probably going to end up being like Purgatory probably wins out over Riverdale. I would just assume, considering all the death we've seen just in these 4 seasons alone. That's not including what we haven't seen, and that's hundreds of years of it too. So, but regardless. I love that whole thing of like Nicole being like, yeah, if you left me at our wedding, I'd probably kill people. Hell, she's like, I'd fuck shit up. I'd kill Nedley. And she's like, Nicole. She's like, I'm just kidding, I think. And it's just like, oh, what else would you do? And it's like, oh. And then I love that Jeremy walks in on him like, oh my God, no one wants to see that. It's just like, man, you guys are just like, keep your hands off each other. It's like, come on. I mean, you literally know that the doors have been blown off the barn and you still went at it. It's just like, you can't control yourself around each other, which is sweet and beautiful in its own right. Which I also feel bad for Jeremy because he was like saying all the wrong things to Damien because he was saying like demons. I wonder if this demon, I mean, I'm sure there's still a lot of people, well, considering the day and age in Purgatory, it isn't as... I mean, I'm sure Damon knows about, like, all the, like, demons and stuff like that, because it's, like, where Purgatory's been for, like, the past 18 months, like, and during the time skip and everything, like, it's something you kind of get used to, so it's a situation of, like, right, it's... Everyone's got to be in the know now. It's no longer only some people know and some people don't. It's like, no, everyone's pretty much got to know at this point. But Jeremy saying all that stuff that can be seen as, like, homophobic, like, the way he's like, oh, we don't like your kind here at this wedding or whatever. It's like, yeah, Damon being like, it's a gay wedding and you got to figure out whatever your whole situation. And Jeremy's like, oh, I totally misread the entire situation because he's like, I felt something in my junk. It's like, I even love later on, Damon's like, you were saying something about you could feel something in your junk. He's like, it's a long story. It's a long story. He's like, actually, no, it's not long. It's average size. I was like, oh, poor Jeremy. We haven't seen him like this in a while. But circling back, I love their attempt with the worms and everything. It ended up being normal worms. They needed silkworms. But, Doc is like, that is very, like, representative of, it's symbolic of Wynonna's love for her family and the fact that she'll do anything, do whatever it takes to protect them. And then even Wynonna, oh, that's kind of sweet. It's like, yeah, it's a cup of love. Okay, strike that. But I love how they're dealing with all of that. And it's like, wait, it's not your wedding day. And then Waverly comes in and she immediately solves the situation. Even Doc being like, I literally jumped in the swamp and we should have just done this from the beginning. I even love the lady being like, I was beaten by regular silk in a standard removal spell. And that was the thing. I love it. It's just like, yeah. And that's what shocked me. I was like, oh, it's done. I was like, wow, we got a lot of this episode left and we're just done. Oh, okay, cool. I see how it is. That's awesome. I was like, I like that. And that's what's so cool about it. It's like nothing really too bad happened. Like everything got solved pretty early and it just became this beautiful send-off for the show, I think, and for the characters. I loved it so much. And it's obviously the conversation of like, okay, whose wedding is it? It's like, wait, are you two getting married? It's her wedding? Yeah, it's mine, Waverly's wedding. It's like, oh, are you two getting married? It's like, oh, no, we're sisters. Oh, so you're getting married. It's like, ew, no, she's marrying the sheriff who is a lesbian. And it's like, oh, then why were you wearing your sister's dress? And they're like, yeah, why is that? And she's like, I don't know. I just, the dress, it got to me. It's like, no, the dress doesn't choose the chooser chooses the dress. It's like the only way that it's like, oh, it's just like, she's like, oh, I thought you kind of throw me a bone or something like that. And it's like, yeah, the only way the dress is going to have that pull for you, it's only going to stay on you if you're in love. And the dog's like, really? And they look, and she's like, no, I just, I saw the dress and I kind of started envisioning. She's like, it was stupid. I started thinking about myself in it. And you're like, oh, that's actually really sweet. So it wasn't just like the pull of the dress. She actually kind of felt the natural pull too, but it's like she kind of pushes back against it a little bit. But obviously the wedding takes off. It's beautiful. I love obviously like some of the seats and stuff like that. You had you saw one for Mercedes, Dolls, Gus. You're like, oh, dude. Waverly wearing her mom's dress. Nicole asking Nedley to walk her down the aisle. Oh, and it's like, she's like, you've always, I want you to walk me down the aisle like you've always, walked beside me my entire life. And he's like, I'd love to. And I'm like, oh, dude, it's so awesome. That's so good. Nicole singing at the wedding. Oh, their vows to each other. And at the same time, like Wynonna and Doc are constantly kind of looking at each other. And it's just like, it's such a small venue. It's just a small thing. But, I think the most important people are there. And it's this beautiful thing. It's awesome. And you're just like, oh, it's so beautiful. It's one of those things where it brings out that side of me where I'm like, I'm a sucker for a good love story. And it's just to see their story to have evolved to what it is, to see all this, to see everything between Doc and Wynonna. And, they're all celebrating and drinking and, it's awesome. I even love Rachel getting Billy invited upon like the fishing trip, and he's like, well, fine, but there's only going to be one tent getting pitched on this trip. And he's like, yes, sir. And Rachel's like, oh, so embarrassing. And it's like I said, just, it's so awesome. I like that. I also love the whole thing of like, we're going to have to put a bell on you or something, kid. Like the fact is like former invisible monster teen or something like that. But Doc drives away and Wynonna doesn't, she doesn't, like, she just kind of lets him drive away. But then afterwards, like, she follows him, and it's just like, what do you want me to do, beg? And he was like, no, that's beneath both of us. He's like, but maybe a little bit. And for her, it's just like, obviously she cares about him, but like I said, she's scared to take that next step. And, she's like, I'm sorry for a lot of stuff, but for Doc, it's like, I wouldn't, yeah, like, we've had our bumpy road, sure, but at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to, I don't regret it. Because for him, it's like, yes, revenge was a big motivator and what kept me alive, kept me driven when I was in the bottom of that well. But another thing is love. That's also what kept me going, finding that love. Because for him, it's like finding a family, a group of people that would tolerate him, which he has, but also that one love, that special someone. That's what makes it all worth it. That's what you're fighting for, And Wynonna just can't even in that moment bring herself to say it. And I love just like when everyone's like, wait, what? You just let him go? And it's like, and then it's like, yeah, but Doc's done some, he's done some better stuff. He's been getting better, but it's like, yeah, but he has also done some terrible stuff. And Rachel's like, yeah, you've done some terrible stuff to him. He's like, yeah, but still, I love the whole thing. She's like, I'm not the one that has to sleep with Doc. And both Jeremy and Rachel at the same time has to. She's saying like, oh my, like, oh, like it's such a terrible thing that like, it's like, oh, most people would want to sleep with Doc Holliday. I love that. I even love later on when Nedley walks over and because she was like, yeah, your relationship's kind of fraught, toxic. He's like, hey, my fourth favorite Britney song. What are we talking about? Oh, you should go. You're going to miss him. It's like she turned down Doc. It's like, what? Doc Holliday, because even Jeremy was saying that Doc Holliday, the Doc Holliday, is like, Wynonna, are you out your damn mind for turning down that hot stud of a man? Type of thing. I love it. Which even, Jeremy's kind of putting himself back out on the saddle just because obviously he hasn't really dated since the Robin situation. And even said it himself. He was like, I was kind of hoping that maybe there'd be some remedy to that. And, but I think it's kind of an aspect of this episode too, is kind of moving forward, not moving backwards, moving forward. But it's like, for Robin, it's like he just wants Robin to be happy. So he's kind of moving forward with Damon at the end, kind of apologizing. And, it's like, even saying like, oh, I'm not going into work on Monday. I've got a date. Oh, okay, well, we'll see you Tuesday then. So he's willing to take that step forward. And I love Waverly comes storming out because Wynonna's like, I can't leave the Ghost Road time. And she said, oh, no. And twist her ear. And because it was like, at first, it's like, and you guys are going to let her throw her life away, like, to help us again? Fuck you. Oh, except for you, Syfy. But then kind of drags Wynonna out and says, like, no, pack your stuff. The fact is, don't use me as an excuse not to do this. It's like, the fact of the matter is, you love him. Yes, you guys, because she's like, me and Doc together, we're not always good. It's like, yes, you guys are complicated. It's not always but the thing is, you love him. And she's like, oh my God, oh fuck, you're right, I do. And it's like, because for Wynonna, it was kind of an excuse, because yes, it's true, she doesn't want to leave her sister behind, she doesn't want to leave all this behind, but it's like, you are the hero, let us handle this. Like, the fact of the matter is, Nicole is the sheriff and she's the Angel Shield, so things are going to work a little differently. He'll even have Jeremy become like the deputy of Black Badge, and it's like, oh, she's like, go Jer. And it's like, so it's like, we got this covered. Like, Purgatory isn't going to operate the way it did before. Things are going to be different. Like, humans, demons, we're all going to find a way to, like, move forward. And we've seen how that operated already. And we're just going to, try to keep that balance, that peace, which is so interesting because it was all about killing demons and monsters in the beginning. But to see how the narrative and aspects of the show have shifted in that regard. So, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, it's like, Waverly, she said her biggest fear used to be Wynonna, never coming back, that Wynonna would never get to know the real her, but she's like, I never have to worry about that. I know the real me, and this place will always be your home to come back to, And, because it's just like, because I'm sure it's also the aspect of, I was able to find the person I love. I found my person. I want you to go off and be with Doc, And so it's the whole thing of like, all right, let's get you out of here. Wait. The truck mess up. Damn it, we got to make this work. Puts the jacket on her, and it's like, wait, and I think Jeremy was like, it's 85 degrees, and it's like, yeah, but you got to be fashionable, bitch, or something like that. Which even Wynonna calling her like her ginger bitch, and she's like, Wynonna, all right, best friend, But they're getting all that set up, and I even love the whole thing. Wait, you're tracking Doc? It's like, yeah, I just want to get a notice when he ends up doing his first TikTok. Also, I wanted to, make sure, he's not speeding or something like that. And it's like, oh, there he goes. He's doing 60 to 55 area. But Wynonna hops on her bike, and then as she's driving, like, ends up shooting Peacemaker, ends up blowing out his tire. And he's like, did you shoot my car? She's like, yep, twice. So for her, and she says it like, I love you. I love that, I love all these different aspects about him. I love I love that you love my sister, and I love that you love me, And as I kind of said at the end, like, Wynonna kind of allowed herself to kind of like to be like, opened herself up to be loved and love in return, So I think it's so beautiful, and it's like, we're not driving that piece of shit. We're not driving that piece of shit all the way to Cleveland or whatever. Also, it's like, well, let's not forget it's the Stone Witches car too, so that's even more reason just to leave Charlene behind. Hey, past and all that, right? So it's nice for them to just drive off on the. I think that's even more symbolic. And at the end, because I was wondering if it was going to come up, but it's like, Miracle Montana. It's like, what's in Miracle Montana? And looking at like, Doc's like, do you think she'll recognize this? And it's like, oh yeah, I'm willing to bet on that. And we see them drive away, so meaning they're going to be reunited with their daughter after all this time. So I think that's beautiful. Be a family, a whole family. And also you have the very ending with, obviously she's going to miss having her sister around, but it's also like, yeah, don't worry. Like, she'll be here, she'll come back. And it's like, I know. But do you ever wish that was us, kind of, our chic, honeymoon out there, traveling the world? And for her, it's like, no, for Nicole, because once again, everything she wants is right here, a place to call home, with her wife by her side, and obviously Waverly feeling the same way, because for Nicole, like it's the first time she's able to settle down and fully call a place her home, and I love the sign, obviously the mailbox saying Earp, and then a sign, added sign saying and hot, sometimes holiday, but it's saying like, in the sign being like everyone welcome, and I was like, that's so beautiful, and I think that's a beautiful thing to end the episode off on, and the end of the series off on, and it's all beautiful because everyone's moving forward, and like I said, I like that. I am glad that it is a very hopeful ending. I did talk about this beforehand. I don't know. I think I talked about this the last time I looked it up, and it's something I'll probably look up after this recording. Was like they were potentially shopping the show on other places. That's a complicated thing, that it's like this show has a really good ending right now, and yes, there's stuff left open, but it's like a lot of stuff is left open to your imagination, how things could play out. So it is a thing of, I don't know if it's, so you want more, but at the same time you're like, but it's such a good ending, like, because they can still have a good ending, but this is such a beautiful heart full circle ending that you're kind of like, it's okay for them not to do more. It's just, it leaves me conflicted, because I want more and then I don't want more, and I'm like, you're tearing me apart. I don't know, because this could easily be like a Smallville situation where they finish it. Once again, if you're unaware, the Smallville technically has 11 seasons. The 11th season is in the form of a comic book, so they could easily do that, because obviously the show was originally the show is based on a comic book, so it kind of be full circle in that regard. If they decided to kind of do maybe a comic book run where they kind of like fill out some of the story, like, kind of concluding like, oh, what misadventures Doc and Wynonna get up to, reuniting with their daughter and everything. Obviously seeing the state of purgatory now, because obviously they've set up some stuff about like, like what it looks like, with Nicole being the Shield and what kind of, so like you can definitely see like I don't know whether it's a situation of like maybe later down the road some other network can kind of reboot Wynonna Earp in the sense of continuing this like later down the road, or whether it is a network picks it up and it's like, oh, we're going to do like one final season, maybe it's a shorter season, whatever the case may be. Obviously the same conversations are happening about American Gods. Obviously this is in a very different situation. American Gods, this actually has a proper ending, whereas American Gods still has, like, you get what I'm trying to say. So I don't know. Like I said, it leaves me conflicted, because I'd love to also know like what the next step for a lot of this show would be, but this is such a beautiful ending and I'm like okay with that, so like I said, and this is all based on, like I said, stuff I'd seen. This was prior to the like second half of the season starting, like, these last 6 episodes starting, so that might have changed. They might not be going along with that anymore. This might be the de facto ending that there is. I don't know if they're still pitching to try and get the show taken other places as well, like, maybe like a streaming service like a Netflix or like an Amazon Prime or something like that, because The Expanse continued on Amazon Prime, but it's also like, who would like I said, as a fan of this show, as a fan of this series, as a fan of these characters, I would like maybe one more season with them, but that's also because I'm selfish. I never want anything to end, but this is such a beautiful ending. Like I said, I'm rambling on, but it's just because I'm so conflicted of like what I would want more. Now, I'd actually love to know your thoughts. Would you want more Wynonna Earp? Are you conflicted like me, or are you very like, because some people it's probably like a yes and no. For some people it's like, yes, I want more, no, because this is such a good ending. Like I said, I'm conflicted. I'd love to know if anyone else is. But like, whether we do get more Wynonna Earp or not, which, like I said, still feeling conflicted about it, I'll say what I normally say. Thanks for the one hell of a ride. I've loved the show. The show's been tears, laughs, just so much heart and soul behind this show. And I've loved it since day one, and to me the show just got better and better, and just as it expanded, and just so much happened. It's amazing. And to the cast and crew, everyone behind the show, I wish them the best in their future endeavors. Now, whether that's in the form of more Wynonna Earp, once again, that'd be cool, but also whether it's just future projects that they're a part of, I wish them the best in their future endeavors. So, yeah. It's always that ending. It's never going to fully hit me until I start uploading this, because that's always when I feel that ache in my heart of like, yeah, this is this is the end, you know. But one hell of a damn ride. And even, you know, that thing at the end, hashtag making your peace. I was like, oh, that's so good, because it's so befitting, because it is everyone making their peace, coming to their peace in a certain regard. I only got to see a short bit of the behind the scenes stuff at the very end. I needed to kind of make sure I get this recorded and done at a time. I'm gonna go back and watch that afterwards. But hell yeah, dude. Yeah, that's all I really have to say on that front. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.